Welcome to Still Plays Galaxy Fears. We're back with a talk video. We're going to try and do this super fast because it's 2 a.m. right now. Here's the topics. 8-Brother Kit Reveal, Synergies, Developer Insights, the T3M4 Omicron, then wrap up with free-to-play gearing. I just finished my Grand Arena. This is when this stuff is fitting into my day. Usually I've got more than 24 hours to put out a kit reveal until the marquee goes live, but that is not the case. We were given just over 24 hours between the release of the kit and the event happening, and these are not really relevant or worth doing after the marquee event happens and the testing goes down. The interesting here, the exercise is to speculate on what we think might happen. Once we're testing it, it's irrelevant. So that's what we're trying to do here. Because it's so late, I'm going to try and do this in one go. Usually I'll do multiple takes until I'm happy with how I phrase something. Not going to be how I handle things today, because we don't really have the time to do that and still get this video out at a time when it's relevant, which is going to be pushing it anyway. Usually we do these in order, but in this case I'm going to start with a unique, hunting a shadow. This is something that we've done with a couple of these kits now. So the unique, at the start of the encounter, 8th Brother gains stealth for 3 turns. Whenever 8th Brother gains stealth, he recovers health and protection. Now if he is stealthed, then 8th Brother uses an ability, he will lose stealth and gain accuracy up and potency up. If the ability that was used was either Whirling Strike or Photon Grenades, he will inflict 1 stack of Purge on any enemy damaged by that ability. So that is a very important and powerful unique, which is why we're starting with it. We're basically looking at is either the 8th Brother will be stealthed and it will be removed and give him potency up, accuracy up, or he will be stealthing, at which point he will be recovering health and protection. On top of that, the unique will be ensuring that anyone damaged is going to get a stack of Purge, but I believe that could be resistible based on the unique. Now the basic here, Whirling Strike. This here is, if not stealth, then he gains stealth for 3 turns. Deal physical damage to the target. If the target is a Jedi, inflict 1 stack of Purge, unresistible or copyable. So that's very basic. This is what's relevant here is it's an ability that is granting the stealth, which means if he's not stealth, he will be gaining health and protection recovery, and will be inflicting that Purge, which could be 2 stacks of Purge based from the basic and then with the unique. Special 1, Photon Grenades. So this is the other one that was referenced by the unique, and this is specifically called out in the Developer Insights as well. So if 8th Brother is not stealth, gain stealth, that's with all these abilities. This is an AoE damage and inflict accuracy down and burning in general. If it's Jedi enemies, then instead of the accuracy down, it is blind that is inflicted. If the enemies are purged, deal 2 times the damage. From the unique though, it will also inflict Purge if 8th Brother is stealthed. So that means at the start of the encounter, you do this AoE, everybody will get purged, which is going to speed up the process for all of the other Inquisitorius allies to inflict that purge and do their damage. Now, it has 3-turn cooldown, so every time this ability is available, you're going to want to use it. And this is the ability here that is really going to make 8th Brother pretty important to any Inquisitor squad. Second special, Bladed Hilt. This one is a little less interesting to me. So this is, like with the other abilities, if 8th Brother is not stealth, gain stealth. Damage to the target, consume up to 5 stacks of purge. For each stack of purge consumed, damage again. That's very powerful. And then there are different debuffs that will be inflicted. Jedis will not be able to resist those debuffs. So 1 stack healing immunity, 2 stacks speed down, 3 stacks ability block, 4 stacks buff immunity, 5 armor shred. So really at 3 stacks or 2 stacks or less, don't do it. 3 stacks, you can maybe consider it conditionally. 4 stacks, only if it's a tank. 5 stacks is when you're going to definitely wanting to do it, depending on the other Inquisitors. Because consuming the purge, each character or each Inquisitor has different abilities in which they will consume purge. You need to make decisions about who you want to be using those consumption abilities on. Not all of them are created equal. These are ones that might be worth doing on tanks. The leadership, more than enough. As far as the Inquisitor allies go, I actually kind of like this leadership. Empire allies get plus accuracy, plus potency. Inquisitorious allies get more, so it goes from 5% to 30%, depending if it's an Empire or Inquisitor ally. Then Jedi enemies that gain Foresight from the unique abilities also gain Blind for 2 turns. It's pretty nice. Whenever other Inquisitorious allies use a basic, they have a chance to inflict Purge. That's a portion I like. It's a Territory War Omicron. When Jedi enemies taunt from uniques, all enemies take damage. 20% of their max health. Jedi enemies will receive crit immunity from Jedi unique abilities and dispel crit immunity from Jedi unique abilities. Dispel crit immunity instead and inflict vulnerable. So I like that, but I think what's relevant here is just something talked about on the Discord channel. I've been discussing with the community over there, and I find this interesting and sensible that the Grand Inquisitor, there is a chance that the Grand Inquisitor will activate all of these leadership abilities, or at a minimum activate it for the individual Inquisitor. So maybe just on the 8th brother's turn, this ability would be activated, or something like that. Because all the amount of Omicrons and Zetas that are on these abilities, in this case there's no Zeta, but with the other Inquisitors, there was some leaderships that were both Zetas and Omicrons. For CG to put this much effort into these leadership abilities that no one is going to use, or no one is going to put these Omicrons on because nobody uses Jedi on defense, it doesn't make a lot of sense unless the Grand Inquisitor unlocks all of them in some capacity. But let's move on to those synergies. With the synergies, obviously the Inquisitors. Darth Vader makes another appearance. That was not the case with 7th Sister. 2nd and 9th, I believe, both showed Vader. It's kind of interesting. I actually don't really see the synergy here. I think, though, from the road ahead and the announcement of the Grand Inquisitor, that is going to be a legendary event. I think the important thing to remember with legendary events is that it is faction specific, so any character from the faction. And from the road ahead, we also know that there are several more marquees coming. So we are going to have more than the 5 minimum needed for the legendary event. We need to decide which of these characters is worth investing in. 8th brother, I think, is definitely going to be worth investing in. AoE inflict purge, that is great. 9th sister is a tank. That character makes a lot of sense. Usually there's only 1 or 2 tanks per faction. 7th sister is the healer. You're going to want to use 7th sister. And then there are going to be more Inquisitor allies that are going to occur before this event. Second Sister, you want to have geared up for the ship, but I'm starting to become suspicious that you're not going to really care about Second Sister for the squad. I think she will be okay at first, but I think she will be replaced by 1 to 2 characters. We know Grand Inquisitor will be on the leader of the squad. There's Fifth Brother still out there. I think the Purge Troopers from Fallen Order make a lot of sense to add to the squad. And the other thing to keep in mind with these legendary events is usually what has been happening. CG releases the event. It's pretty difficult. Then a character is released, which makes the event much easier, or a rework happens, which makes the event a lot easier. And not always it's a release, but very often there's a key character you need to handle these things. So you had Logray with Chewbacca, or Logray for the C3PO event. You had Dengar for the Chewbacca event. For the Padme event, it was very difficult at first. Then we got the Newt rework, the Geos rework, the Dooku rework. All those happened after the event occurred. These are the types of things that CG does. I would not be surprised to see that we get all of these characters like next week. We probably get one more character to make the 5 for the squad within probably maybe a month to the point where it's technically farmable, but CG might make it that this event is only for whales. They haven't really done that. I think they might do it where, because they've just forced us to use up all of our crystals, so it's really hard to rush after this event without spending. But I think, and we're also at the end of the month where this is also the end of a fiscal quarter, so CG might be trying to juice some money, where it might be that we get this event within a week or two of the beginning of April. They announce the timeline on the event at the end of March. So March 31st or March 30th, they announce the event, and that will force a bunch of spending, which will lead up to the legendary event going live, and they get that little extra spending at the end of the month. It's a possibility, because I was very surprised by the announcement of the Grand Inquisitor to give us this amount of lead time before they had even released a full faction worth. That's not how it's been done in the past. Anyway, let's move on to the rest of the developer insights. Pretty basic here. They've been much more straightforward in these. Like sometimes they'll talk around things, but they very clearly here in strategy tips say that Eighth Brother needs to be the fastest to inflict purge. So this is the fast. This is the Echo. This is the Moff Gideon. This is the Piet. This is the one that you're going to want to put all of your speed on in order to juice this faction and get it working. The rest of the insights here is fairly straightforward. No other clues. Like I like to look for clues about future kits, future marquees, but that wasn't really the case here. Let's hit this Omicron ability quick. So this is while in territory wars at the start of the encounter, T3M4 gain stealth, droid allies gain armor penetration, and max health. And on top of that, droid allies will have 20% defense for each target locked enemy, 20% defense while debuffed, 20% defense while buffed. At the start of T3M4's turn, inflict target lock on a random enemy who doesn't have it, which is unevadable but resistible. That is something that you always got to pay attention to the wording. Then all allies recover 5% health and protection for each target locked enemy. I kind of wish this was a Grand Arena Omicron because this is actually a fun one. T3M4 already has fun Zetas, which make for interesting droid teams. I've tried to make droid teams work before using T3M4. You could do something interesting with IG-88, Imperial Probe Droid, T3M4. They all have target lock synergy. And then you throw in B1 on top of that, or General Grievous, or IG-100, where Grievous has a bunch of target lock synergy. Either you could be using his lead or IG-88's lead. Put target locks on everyone. Grievous is getting turn meter if he's in the lead. B1 could be out there to just be AoEing all those target locks. IG-100 could be out there for all those, to hit all those target locks and also to put a taunt up. A lot of fun theory crafting for this Omicron. It is one I would be tempted by if I was prioritizing territory war Omicrons, and it's one where you could see, like, instead of Newt or BB-8 or Watt in those Grievous squads, T3M4 being thrown into that 5th slot on a Grievous squad. It's probably how most people are going to use it at first, but I like the potentiality of the IG-88s, the IPDs, pairing them with T3M4 and getting some weird teams out of it. And to wrap up, as we always do, with the free-to-play gearing of my account, this is the gearing I did March 21st this weekend before signing up for this week's Grand Arena. So the big thing here was JMK took them up to relics. I took my time doing this because I do those lowest viable team video series, and I wanted to beat each of those tiers with as low gear as I could, which was gear 12. And as soon as I beat all of those, I then went for some relics. I take them up to relic 5. I'm working on the Star Killer event, so I'm still working on collecting all of the relic materials I need there. 5 is a good spot, and I don't have the ultimate yet, so not rushing to go up to relic 7. He'll be there within, probably before the next season of Grand Arena, but I felt like I was going to be fine for this week. Mara Jade gets to 7 stars, so we take her to gear 12. And then I want to do that with the rest of the Star Killer requirements. So Darth Talon 2, she gets to go to gear 12. I had brought up or saved up a lot of Kairos for all of that. Do the same thing here for Dash. Just double checking my counts. So we're out of those Cairo computers. I'll end up putting on all the gear 12, the left hand side gear 12 plus pieces. But I do that stuff off screen. And the other big thing I do is with these Inquisitors, I'm starting to do some progress here, do some work. So 7th Sister, I take up a level. We don't have the Kairos to go higher, but I take her to gear 9. Gamorrean Guard, I've been talking about a long time, 2 quarterly speculation videos now that I'm expecting things there. It's been in the monthly calendar. The Sign of Django, I think, is going to be a good team at some point. No, I take up Gamorrean Guard a couple levels. I don't really have the Carbantes because he's very hungry for the Carbantes. But I take him up to gear 9. He'll be up at gear 11 very soon because I do expect him to get a rework. Maybe a touch-up, but a rework is likely. I think more than an Omicron, because I think he's going to make Scion of Django a good team. Mace Windu here, he gets all his Zetas. I was debating maybe doing 1 or 2, but there's not one that really sticks out, but they're all pretty decent. So I just decided to run with it. I was kind of impressed this past week of Grand Arena how well he did without the Zetas and without leveled up abilities. He was pretty good. GTR, this Zeta, just to make her better, that gives her the heal when she evades. Doesn't really need it, but she's better. I surprisingly didn't have any of these Omegas on. I I throw them all on. I use the Radis enough these days. And I put the Zeta on because I do use Holdo with my JTR team because I take BB-8 off of it. And it will make it a little bit more annoying. And considering it is a team I use on defense, all those little edges help. My Interceptor throwing on the rest of the ship Omegas. I have it unlocked, and it'll be done next conquest, which will be in 2 weeks, a week or two. I don't do too much more, but I think I did something else. What did I do? I'm glancing at things. Younghan, Zeta I'm curious about. I'm not going to do it until later. The thing is, with the Grand Arena changes, there's really no downside. Oh, yeah, this is when I do it. I think I mentioned it earlier, but I throw all the Zetas on. Not the Omegas, but maybe I shouldn't have done this, but I just felt like throwing them on. I have regretted some of these new Zetas, but in general, most of these new Zetas are good enough to put on. Being sub 200 Zetas, that's like the first time in 2 years that's been the case. I think I've been doing a lot of slouching in this video. Usually in these outros, I just like to say something about something. It's random and has no consistency. I think the other talk video said I was going to watch Rebels. Now that Inquisitors are a thing, haven't started yet. Did finally get around to watching Witcher Season 2, or starting it. That's what I did instead. But I will hit Rebels at some point. Be safe out there, everyone, and be excellent to each other. This is Still Plays Galaxy of Heroes.